Stop what you are doing right now. I want you to walk into your kitchen, open your pantry, and take out that plastic bear or that generic squeeze bottle of honey you bought on sale. Look at it. Watch the bubble rise to the top. It looks golden, doesn't it? It looks pure. It looks like nature's perfect sweetener, a product made by millions of years of evolution and the tireless work of the honeybee. I have bad news for you. If you bought that at a standard supermarket, and especially if you bought the store brand or the cheapest option on the shelf, you are not holding honey. You are holding a lie. You are holding a bottle of chemically engineered industrial syrup that has been laundered across 3 continents to hide its origin. Welcome back to Grocery Store Truths. I'm your host, the guy who reads the fine print so you don't have to, and today we are exposing one of the longest running, most sophisticated criminal enterprises in the food industry. We are talking about the Great Honey Laundering Scheme. You think you're eating a health food? You think you're putting a natural antimicrobial superfood into your tea or on your children's toast? Think again. The video evidence we have analyzed today exposes a terrifying reality. The vast majority of commercial honey is adulterated, stripped of its nutrients, and loaded with heavy metals like arsenic and lead, along with banned antibiotics that destroy your bone marrow. They want you to believe it's farm to table. The truth, it's factory to vein. Today, we are going to break down the chemistry of the fake, the toxicity of the supply chain, and I'm going to show you exactly which brands are poisoning you and which ones, like the Spanish Granja San Francisco or the small batch Pure Mountain Honey, are actually worth your money. Let's get into the sticky truth. Part 1, the scam. What is Honeygate? To understand why your honey is fake, you have to understand the economics of cheating. Honey is the third most faked food in the world, right behind olive oil and milk. Why? Because real honey is hard to make. It requires millions of bees visiting millions of flowers, regurgitating nectar, flapping their wings to evaporate moisture, and sealing it in wax. It is a biological miracle. But high fructose corn syrup, rice syrup, that's easy, that's cheap. That's made in a vat in a factory. The laundering process. The video footage reveals a process known in the industry as Honeygate. It started blowing up around 2008, but let me tell you, it never stopped. It just got smarter. Here's how the scam works. Vast quantities of honey are produced in Asia, specifically China. But this isn't from bees flying over wildflower meadows. This is often unripe nectar harvested too early, artificially dried, and then cut with cheap sugar syrups, corn, rice, or beet syrup. But here's the problem for the scammers. If they ship it directly to the US or Europe labeled as Chinese honey, it gets hit with massive tariffs, taxes, designed to protect local beekeepers. Plus, regulators test Chinese honey more strictly because it is notorious for containing banned substances. So what do? They wash the honey. They ship this toxic sludge from China to a third-party country, Vietnam, India, Malaysia, or Turkey. In that intermediary country, the barrels are relabeled. The country of origin is switched. They mix the fake Chinese syrup with a tiny amount of local honey to mask the chemical signature, and then ship it to your grocery store labeled as imported honey or the incredibly deceptive blend of non-EU honeys. The crime of ultrafiltration. How do they get away with it? Science. The footage explicitly mentions ultrafiltration. This is the smoking gun. Real honey contains pollen. Pollen is the fingerprint of the honey. If a scientist looks under a microscope and sees sunflower pollen from the Ukraine, they know the honey is Ukrainian. If they see specific clover pollen from Ohio, it's American. But if the honey comes from a polluted industrial province in China, the pollen proves it. So the big packers heat the honey to high temperatures, killing all the beneficial enzymes, and force it through high-pressure filters that remove everything. No pollen, no fingerprint, no traceability. When you buy that clear golden syrup in the squeeze bottle that never crystallizes, you are buying a ghost product. It has no origin. Without pollen, there is no way to prove where it came from. And if there is no way to prove where it came from, there is no one to sue when you get sick. Part 2, the science. Fake versus real. Let's put on our lab coats. The industry relies on your ignorance of chemistry. They count on you thinking sugar is sugar. It is not. The biological difference between the fake stuff and real honey is night and day. 1. The living versus the dead. Real honey is a living food. When a bee gathers nectar, it adds enzymes from its own body, specifically invertase, amylase, and glucose oxidase. Invertase breaks down sucrose into glucose and fructose. Glucose oxidase produces hydrogen peroxide, which gives honey its natural antibacterial and antiseptic properties. Real honey also contains phytonutrients, antioxidants, flavonoids and phenolic acids, and trace minerals. Fake honey, or adulterated honey, is dead. It is heated to 160-degree Riof or higher to make it flow faster into bottles. This heat destroys the enzymes. It denatures the proteins. Then, they cut it with high fructose corn syrup, HFCS. HFCS is chemically distinct. It is a processed sweetener derived from cornstarch. It has no enzymes, no antioxidants, no soul. 2. The isotope test. The video alludes to carbon isotope testing. This is how labs catch the cheaters. Corn and sugar cane are C4 plants. Most flowers bees visit are C3 plants. They absorb carbon differently. When you run honey through a mass spectrometer, if it glows with the carbon signature of a C4 plant, corn, you know it's fake. But the scammers are getting better. They are now using rice syrup, a C3 plant, which is much harder to detect. This is an arms war between the fraudsters and the food scientists. 3. Viscosity and crystallization. The video emphasizes this, and you need to memorize it. Real honey crystallizes. If you have a jar of honey in your pantry that has been there for 6 months and it is still perfectly liquid and clear, throw it out. It is syrup. Real honey is a supersaturated solution. Over time, the glucose separates from the water and forms crystals. This is a sign of purity. It means the pollen is there, giving the crystals something to grow on. And the honey hasn't been boiled to death. The fake stuff stays liquid forever because it is highly processed syrup designed for shelf stability, not human health. Part 3. The toxicity, arsenic, lead, and antibiotics. This is the part that should make you angry. We aren't just talking about being ripped off for $5, so we are talking about slow poisoning. The input video flashed some terrifying words: arsenic and chloramphenicol. Let's break down why these are in your healthy sweetener. The heavy metal crisis. The footage confirms levels exceeding 100 micrograms of lead and arsenic. Why? Because in many mass production regions in Asia, the environment is heavily polluted. The bees drink water from contaminated sources. The flowers absorb heavy metals from the smog and soil. The bees concentrate these toxins in the comb. Lead impacts neurological development in children. Arsenic is a known carcinogen. When you buy untraceable honey, you are essentially filtering industrial smog through a bee and eating it. The antibiotic bomb, chloramphenicol. This is the big one. In mass production factory hives, bees are kept in cramped, unsanitary conditions. They get sick. To keep them alive and producing, unethical beekeepers pump the hives full of antibiotics. One of the most common ones used in the black market is chloramphenicol. This drug is banned in food production in the US, Europe, and most developed nations. Why? Because it is linked to aplastic anemia, a rare but fatal condition where your bone marrow stops producing blood cells. It is not a matter of safe limits. There is zero tolerance for this drug. Yet the video highlights that laboratory tests repeatedly find traces of this antibiotic in imported blended honeys. The sugar spike. Even without the poison, the sugar profile is dangerous. Raw honey has a lower glycemic index, a GI, because the enzymes help your body metabolize it slowly. It doesn't spike your insulin as drastically. Adulterated honey, corn syrup, is pure fructose, glucose injection. It spikes your blood sugar immediately. It contributes to insulin resistance, obesity, and diabetes. As the video says, it creates dangerous peaks of glucose. Part 4, the countdown, brand review. Based on the footage and our investigation, we can now separate the villains from the heroes. The villains do not buy. The generic squeeze bear. If the bottle is plastic, shaped like a bear, or just says honey with no specific brand heritage, put it back. Red flags. Look at the back label. Does it say product of USA, Argentina, Thailand, India, Vietnam? That is the blend. That is the code for we mixed random syrups from around the world. The verdict, 90% chance of adulteration, 100% chance of ultrafiltration. It's expensive corn syrup, store brand value, honey. These are the worst offenders. They bid for the lowest price on the global market. They don't care about the bees, they care about the margin. The video shows these bottles being poured. They flow like water. That is not honey, that is sugar water. The heroes, the hidden gems, Granja San Francisco, featured in video. The video highlights this specific brand, and for good reason. The origin, Spain. European Union standards are generally stricter than US standards regarding antibiotics. The traceability. The video notes their 100% Española, 100% Spanish label. This is crucial. It's not a blend. It's from a specific country with specific agricultural laws. The quality, it retains the pollen. It respects the flowering season. You can actually taste the difference between their miel de flores, flower honey, and miel de bosque, forest honey. The verdict, approved, a legit supermarket option if you can't find a local farmer. Pure mountain honey, the Dutch kettle. We saw this jar in the footage. This represents the artisanal tier. The look, did you see the color? Dark amber, not that fake, bright yellow. Darker honey usually means higher mineral content and antioxidants. The source, specific mountain regions, high altitude flowers. Cleaner air means cleaner nectar, free from the heavy metals found in industrial zones. The texture, it looked thick. It resisted the spoon. That is the sign of low moisture content, what real honey should be. The verdict, highly approved. If you see specific geography on the label, e.g. Appalachian, Pyrenees, Manuka, it is much harder to fake. Part 5, the home test, how to spot the fake. You are standing in your kitchen. You have a jar. Is it real? The video showed us a few physical tests. Here is how you perform the grocery store truths audit at home. Test number 1, the thumb test. Put a small drop of honey on your thumb. Fake. If it spreads around or drips off instantly, it's fake. Syrups have high water content. Real. It should sit there as a distinct round globule. It stays intact. Real honey is viscous. Test number 2, the water test, the dissolve. Take a glass of cold water, spoon a teaspoon of honey into it. Fake. It will start to dissolve immediately as it falls, clouding the water. High fructose corn syrup loves to mix with water. Real. It will sink to the bottom as a solid lump. It won't dissolve until you vigorously stir it. It acts like a stone sinking in the lake. Test number 3, the paper towel test. Drop a blob of honey on a paper towel. Fake. It absorbs into the paper, leaving a wet ring like water. Real. It sits on top of the paper for a long time without soaking through. Test number 4, the heat test, the burn. Dip a matchstick in honey and try to light it. Fake. It won't light. Why? Too much moisture. Real. It will ignite and burn. Real honey is fuel. Part 6, the conclusion. Vote with your spoon. Listen to me closely. This isn't just about being a food snob. This is about biological integrity. When you buy that cheap $4 squeeze bottle of honey, you are funding the destruction of the bee population. You are funding factories in Asia that treat animals with cruelty and pump toxins into the environment. You are poisoning your own body with heavy metals and antibiotics that could render your own immune system defenseless. Honey is supposed to be medicine. It was found in the tombs of Egyptian pharaohs, still edible after 3,000 years. It is the only food that never spoils, if it is real. So here is your mission. Check the label. If it says blend, imported, or lists no country, put it back. Look for raw and unfiltered. If it looks cloudy, that's good. That's pollen, that's vitamins, that's flavor. Buy local. Go to your farmer's market. Talk to the guy with the bees. Yes, it might cost $15 instead of $5, but you are buying a superfood, not a sugar syrup. Look for the brands. If you are stuck in the supermarket, look for Granja San Francisco or verified single origin jars. Don't let the industry fool you. Don't let them feed you plastic and tell you it's gold. Your health is worth more than a cheap sugar rush. I'm the grocery store truths guy. Stay skeptical, stay healthy, and stop eating fake food.